Good morning. My name's Mark Walmer. I'm a Pennsylvania criminal justice attorney for over 35 years. I run a company called Record Eraser, also known as Pennsylvania Pardon and Expungement Services, LLC. And I generate these podcasts to try to create content in order to help people figure out what's going on in the world of pardons and expungements. Today's October 18th. And we're filming at the Candy Factory in lovely Lancaster. Today's video, what I want to do is an update from the Governor's Board of Pardons with a recent meeting that they had, a merit review on October 13th. So the Governor's Board had what's called a merit review meeting on October 13th. They actually reviewed 96 cases, I believe, for incarcerated people. And when you're incarcerated and you're trying to get a pardon or you're trying to get out of prison, that's called a commutation. And so at the merit review, the Governor's Board of Pardons reviewed 96 cases of incarcerated inmates whose applications they had already had investigated and reviewed. And at this vote, the vote was to determine whether or not the inmate would get a chance to do a public presentation. The way the process works, starting at the end, is what everybody needs is the expungement. Okay, and I'm not talking about incarcerated people. I'm talking about regular, everyday people with criminal convictions. What you want is the expungement, but you can't file the expungement on misdemeanor or felony convictions until they've been pardoned by the governor. That's a decree that the governor issues that gives you permission to file the expungement. In order to get to the governor, the board, which is 5 people, has to go through 2 processes. The first is a merit review to see if you have an application that's been investigated that's sufficiently convincing that at least 2 out of the 5 board members give you an invitation to come to a public presentation. Now, the public presentations, by the way, are by Zoom these days. They're not in person. They used to be, but now they're by Zoom, and they're about 5 to up to 15 minutes, but usually not, when the board gets to ask you questions and you get to explain why the crime occurred, what you've done with your life since then, and why you're a good candidate. So after that merit review, the board goes on to vote and determine if your case is recommended to the governor, and that's called a public vote. If you get a sufficient number of votes, then your case is forwarded to the governor for review. You need to get 3 out of the 5 board votes in order to have it sent to the governor. The governor is basically the 4th vote. So at this point, what you have is you've filed the application, which takes us a month or 2 to prepare. It's investigated by the board, and they reach out to do an investigative interview, which has probably taken a year or 2. Then it goes to the merit review to see if you're going to get enough votes to go to the public presentation. And then that goes to either a recommendation to the governor to issue a pardon, or your case is rejected, in which case the rules say you have to wait a year and then you can ask again. So that's sort of the process from beginning to end. Now, backing up into October 13th's merit review session, the board reviewed 96 cases that had been presented of incarcerated individuals. I don't know exactly how they voted on that because the incarcerated individuals are represented usually by other attorneys or by in-house parole officers. But then they got to the exciting part. As you'll recall, in September, Lieutenant Governor Fetterman and Governor Wolf allowed people to file their own marijuana misdemeanor do-it-yourself pardon applications online. And so from September 1st to September 30th, people were encouraged to go online if they had 2 kinds of marijuana cases. 1, possession of marijuana, small amount for personal use, or simple possession of marijuana. I'm not going to get into the details of the difference between the 2 statutes, but it was technically supposed to be one of those 2 statutes in order to do this. Not felony marijuana, not possessions of any other kinds of drugs, not possessions of paraphernalia. They were aiming at simple possession cases, marijuana only, and people were encouraged to go online and file their own applications. So that was at least hugely successful to the extent that 3,596 people went online and filed their own pardon my misdemeanor marijuana conviction case. So then, now we're at the merit review, October 13th, and the board is being asked, are you ready to vote on 3,600 cases? I'm just going to call it 3,600. And what the board decided to do was to take it under advisement because the window to the online applications had just closed September 30th. They're voting on October 13th. Their staff hasn't had time to get in there and to vet or investigate all of these marijuana cases to make sure they are only simple marijuana, that there are no other drugs involved, that there's no other disqualifiers, that it's not a felony. Because believe me, people will go online and they will just, file the application even though they might, I don't know. Anyway, with 3,600 cases under review, what they did was take those 3,600 cases under advisement to give their staff more time to go through and investigate. I believe they're trying to move as quickly as possible. I know that they have created the next board dates to meet are December 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. So 4 days. Sounds like they want to review a lot of cases. That's what I think is coming around the corner. So that's what the merit review hearing was all about, and that's how it went. And that's the update from the Board of Pardons.